Well, good morning and welcome to Fast Format, our last opportunity to really get together as we close out what has been an incredible 2020. And for all of us that are joining here on the webinar, it's so great to have you here today as we're going to talk about what some of the best estate agents are really doing to significantly multiply their effort and their results. We've got people that are joining us from all across Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the UAE. So it's going to be an incredible opportunity to really be able to build on that new level of momentum. As we jump in to have a quick look about what's really happening today, everything is about really building that new level of momentum as we close out the year. And I'm going to go and have a look at three very specific things for you today. We're going to have a quick look about what is happening across the domestic market. We're then going to go and zoom in to have a look about what the best people are doing at a mindset level. And then we're going to have a look at the essential skill sets of what it's going to take to be an incredible agent as we close out this year. Please make sure that you feel free to type in your name and details of where you're from into the chat box so that everyone who's on the webinar this morning can see it. If you have any great ideas or things that you love as a part of today's session, just note them down in the chat section so that everyone gets the opportunity to share in the learning. Well, we did call it fast format for a reason, and that is because it's ridiculously fast. Over the course of the next 45 minutes, we're going to literally take you from zero to hero in being a great real estate agent. Let's have a quick look at it and jump into it. This is the first lot of information that we've seen coming directly out of the Australian Financial Review this morning. Loan deferrals at the CBA have fallen to just 2.9% of the bank's total loan book as of October 31. It compares to 10.8% at the peak of the crisis. Reduced bank loan deferrals extended by the budget stimulus, lower borrowings, as well as faster COVID-19 reopenings have triggered the sharpest rise in consumer confidence and property buying intentions since records have been kept. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison has come out to say that Australia has now clearly emerged from its recession after the surge back in confidence. And what they're saying is that the comeback is underway. No doubt about that. Confidence is rebuilding in our economy. It's now at a 7-year high that shows that Australia is getting their confidence on as we emerge from this recession. Interesting conversation when you go to have a look at that. One of the big drivers is to see that the rate of distressed listings by city is lower than what it was in February before the beginning of the crisis in every single major capital city around Australia. That goes to give you some confidence about where the market is heading. Interesting enough, consumer confidence index is pointing that literally it is at its height, almost to the same levels as 2012. Also, in addition to that, the time to buy a dwelling is at its highest ever level, again, since almost the end of 2014. And we're now also seeing that the time to go and buy particularly expensive household items is at its all-time record high. So consumer confidence is bouncing back like there is no tomorrow. In addition to that, the National Property Clock is clearly identifying, if you have a quick look here in terms of the numbers, that Melbourne is in a position that apparently it's in a declining market, and Sydney is approaching the bottom of the market cycle. We always know that on these particular graphs, they're 30, 60, 90 days behind what we're actually seeing on the ground. And if anything is to go by, our clients in Brisbane, in Sydney, and also in Melbourne are identifying that this is probably one of the strongest bull markets that they've ever seen. It is going to be a very short, sharp, and aggressive ride from the bottom of market right the way through to the peak of market as we go through this cycle. In addition to that, what we are seeing is that now more than ever before, you've got to have a mindset. As we get towards the end of the year, it's easy to say that you're tired, that you're exhausted, that you're done with it. Our Melbourne agents up to 30, 40, 50, even 60 private buyer appointments during the course of a week. We certainly feel for them as the rest of the country emerges into open for inspections as a part of that conversation. And in addition to that, what is also critically important, we're now starting to see Christmas carols and Christmas trees go up around the country as we start to think about, well, what are the things that we can be doing to really multiply our mindset? So today, I wanted to get you ready for 2021. I want to get you into the mindset of what great agents are doing to significantly drive their level of momentum. And more than ever before, I want to make sure that you come out of today's 45-minute training session feeling fresh and energetic and pumped about where you're going and what you're going to be doing next. Now, one of my favorite quotes that really woke me up and shook me up a few weeks ago is this one. Someone once told me that the definition of hell is that your last day that you have here on earth, the person that you became will get to meet the person that you could have become. And that just gets me to think that, you know what, there's a whole lot of potential that you're simply just not playing with. And now is absolutely the time to go there, to go and make these things happen. It is important to think about that procrastination will ruin your life and limit your potential. And you've got to start getting into this position But are you doing the actions, the behaviors, and the activities that great agents do to make sure that they build that significant amount of momentum? This is such an important period of time. It's not just 43 days through until Christmas. This is about making sure that we get set for an almighty comeback as we begin in 2021. A number of our colleagues over in the UK are now in another lockdown until early December. As a part of that conversation, the real estate industry is still open. We're seeing that in New Zealand, it's surging. Across in the UAE, it's surging. The same in the US and here in Australia. And what this is clearly showing is that when we can't do international travel, consumers are turning back to residential real estate. But with that comes a number of challenges for us to handle. There is no break between 2020 and 2021. It's merely a transition, and we need to be open for business. And this is such an important period because I want you to think about this. Over the course of the next 12 months, I want you to put in your business plan that there will be another shutdown for a minimum of 6 weeks. And if you put that into your business plan that there will be a shutdown for a minimum of 6 weeks, it will get you prepared for what is ahead. Now, if that shutdown doesn't occur, you'll be even happier. But if it does occur, you'll be in a position that you've got a plan on what you can be doing around the types of activities. This is absolutely the time to run for it like there's no tomorrow. Alexander Phillips in the High Performance podcast is in a position that he was saying that he's just triggered over 200 residential sales for this year, with still the balance of November and December to go. With his existing listings on track, we should be at a minimum of 240 sales, which will be an absolute record for him in terms of his numbers, up an interesting 20 to possibly 30% in total fees that have been written during the course of the pandemic. This is not a market where you can make excuses. There's no more COVID delays. This is about making the decision to really get in there and do the very best work that you can to make sure that you set yourself up for that level of success. First month back, if we go and have a look at what's happening, Saturday, January 9 will be the first number of open for inspections that will be triggered internationally and certainly around the country. Our first opens back will get that flywheel moving. It allows us to get into momentum early. We get to meet buyers, we get to meet sellers, we get to have conversations with people that are actually thinking that they're ready to go and do a transaction. That will then lead us into our first lot of on-site auctions, being the 23rd and also the 30th of January. This is going to be a very early start to 2021. And what we know is that there's going to be a number of people that are going to be in a position that they're going to be putting their head up over the Christmas break, thinking about what they want to be doing, where they want to be living, and how they want to be living their lives going forward. This will be an incredible opportunity for you to be able to make sure that you have absolutely got that hunking right there's no tomorrow. What we do know is that one of the biggest challenges for agents is that literally they can write zero in terms of their total commissions in January, or you can literally have your biggest ever month on record. And the way you do it is based on what you do over the course of the next 6 weeks. As a part of that, one of my favorite sayings of all time is that attitude is a skill. And every single time I hear someone who says, Josh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm over it, I'm done with it at the moment, I say to them, look, at the end of the day, we know that attitude is absolutely a skill. And saying that you're exhausted and tired, that's just an attitude, and you can change that. So what I'd love you to do is to write down a list of the things that energize you. It might be getting a juice, getting a coffee, catching up with a friend, reading over a great quote, doing something that literally gets you motivated and pumped and raring to go. Attending a session like this, maybe being in a position you put on some good music, but doing something that allows you to feel like you're absolutely at your best. We know that this attitude is going to be critically important because ultimately we become what we do. If we procrastinate, if we whinge, if we complain, if we're in a position that we literally keep on telling ourselves the same old story that things aren't getting better, then things won't get better. If you're in a position that you see a lot of opportunity, if at the start of every day you think, what can I do and where are the opportunities, you will go out there and create them like there's no tomorrow. And this is the lesson, is that what you want to be thinking about is that now's the time to play this game at a much greater level. Now's the time to turn up the volume and really do what you're capable of doing. Your work is too important to be left to how you feel today. And I love this whole conversation is that, we get up and in the morning, we've got those automatically negative thoughts. We've got that all the reasons that we can't. It's too warm, it's too hot, the sun's up, the sun's not up yet. There's a whole range of reasons why we can't go and do the things we can do. But what we know is that winning routines allow you to be able to perform at your best. I've never ever got up for the morning, gone for a run, listened to some great music, got home and said, geez, I wish I hadn't have done that. This is about establishing new powerful routines that's going to allow you to absolutely play at your best. Now we know in order to go and do that, what is important is that you can't be waiting for that feeling, because waiting for a feeling is a luxury that we don't have time for. And this is what actually happens inside of our careers and our lives, is that we keep on waiting for the feeling before we go to do our best work. And what I'm asking you to do today is that don't wait for the feeling, create the feeling. Be in a position that you get into that start of the day, that winning routine that allows you to absolutely perform at your best. When you're driven by purpose, you stop doing the minimum required. And this is one of the great challenges as agents, is that sometimes we turn up and say, you know what, we're just going to do our minimum today. We're just going to get by. We're just going to do 1 appointment, 2 appointments. Maybe I'll do a call session. I don't feel like doing that. Yet if I was in your office today, you'll be absolutely hitting the phones. If I was at your work from home office today, you would literally be performing like there's no tomorrow. And why is that? Because when you've got people around you that hold you to high expectations, you know that you want to get out there and go and deliver to those expectations. This is the chance now that more than ever before, that you've got to be motivated by the desire to achieve, not by the desire to beat others. And I love this quote by Ayn Rand, one of the famous authors of Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, because it gets me to think about it, that literally your motivation is up to you. You're the one that creates it. You're the one that creates the momentum inside of your own life. If you're not excited about who you are, about the vision around what you're creating, then no one else is going to be. And it's up to you to control that anxiety, to get yourself in a position that you understand when you're on a plateau, but also too when you're going to be seeking out a brand new Everest, a personal Everest, something that inspires you and gets you motivated to perform at your absolute best. You know what? You've got to make your learning greater than your experience. And the people that have really got through this year are those that have got a learn-it-all culture rather than a know-it-all culture. It's about what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're watching, the people that you're surrounding yourselves with, the conversations that you're getting involved with. And you want to be around people that literally make you feel better than you've ever felt before. At the end of the day, we need firmer boundaries around what we're going to allow into our lives and what we're not going to allow. And we need clearer priorities, things that are really important. If you said to me, Josh, here are some new boundaries. I don't want to be tired and exhausted anymore. I don't want to be in a position that I don't get to see my family. I don't want to be in a position that this career takes hold. Then put some firmer boundaries in play. It's about learning how to control your diary. What happens in your diary is what happens in your life. Put some firm boundaries to say, you know what, I'm not going to work Sundays anymore. Put some firm boundaries to say, you know what, there's 1 or 2 nights a week where I am going to be home nice and early to be able to spend some time with the kids and the family. This is important because for you, more than ever before, you've got to get those priorities clear on what's important. We want you to be able to build a career where you can earn more income and work 10 hours less each week. We want you to get the priorities clear about what's important. Prospecting and lead generation to make sure that you've actually got your best listings coming on board so that you've got an incredible pipeline. This market is all about your ability to generate leads, to get in front of sellers, to be able to get them to get the commitment to come to market. And the reason why that's so important is that as people start to hear that the market's improving, they think if they wait 3, 4, 5 months, their property price will probably go up by 100,000. But so too will the changeover costs in them being able to buy that next property. And so it's important that people trade in the same markets. And this is such an important conversation to be working with all of the buyers, sellers that we've now got in the new market that we exist in today. As a part of that, performance goes through the roof when you have autonomy around what it is that you do. And that's about getting clear around the intentions about how you're going to be working the diary and what you're going to be doing to really lead that to be a successful day. It's about making sure that you've got high goal clarity. You know what? We need to get 1, 2, 3, 4 more listings for this year. Then we need to have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 listings for the start of next year. And then making sure that you seek regular feedback on your results. Don't wait until you're a week down the track before you realize that your appointment numbers aren't where they need to be. Don't wait until you get to the end of the month to then realize that you're low on listing numbers. What are the things that you can do today? What's the conversation that you can be having, the person that you can reach out to, the activities that can allow you to go and build that level of momentum? And as a part of that, pressure can burst pipes or it can make a diamond. And so literally learn how to live with the pressure in a really powerful way. Use it to your advantage to motivate you so that you absolutely play at your best. Our whole conversation is to think about that your attention is always 100% engaged in something. It's either engaged in distractions or it's engaged in purposeful pursuit of what it is that you want to go and achieve. So if you find yourself on your screen time app in a position that you're too much on social, delete them from your phone. Start getting on the phone, start calling people, start booking appointments, and really making a run for it as we close out this year. What you tolerate is your standard. If you tolerate negative relationships, if you tolerate vendors who won't take your advice, if you tolerate people who continue to tell you that you're not good enough around what it is that you're doing, there's no way that you're going to go and play a better game. And I want you to absolutely play to your best. I want you to be the best version of you that you're capable of being. We know that a man who dares to waste 1 hour of life has not discovered the value of life, says Charles Darwin. And isn't that just so true? There are so many people that I hear that say, Josh, I'm going to wait till next year. 2021 is going to be my year. I'm going to wait till January before I start working. Next year will be the year of no distractions. And all of that is so crazy when you think about it, that 2021 has already begun now. We've already got agents that are shifting their momentum to listing for next year. We've already got agents who've got their first campaigns locked and loaded with agency agreements signed. And we're going to show you the specific skills that they're using to make sure that they've got those agency agreements signed and ready to go. Now is the time to use your life the way that you want to live it. A life becomes the way that it's lived. If it's lived in a position that literally you throw away days and weeks waiting for the next year, then ultimately you'll never perform. And this is the conversation when you need to lift up that level of performance and really play to your best. Let's go and have a look at the skill sets of what the best agents are really doing to make sure that they build an incredible level of momentum. And this is massively important for where you're at today. We know that prospecting works best when it feels like service. One of the key things to think about is that every single time that you think about what a great agent does, go and do what great agents do. Classic example, there's a house around the corner from mine that came on the market just on 6 weeks ago. I know the agent that's listed that particular property. I know the agency that's listed that particular property. I know that they know where I live, and I know that that particular agent even gets the daily email and is in a position that they wave as they run past in the morning. So off the back of that, why wouldn't they communicate to let me know that property had been listed? Maybe I wanted to buy it as an investment. Maybe that then gives me some confidence about the market and might allow them to bring some buyers through mine. And then when the property sold just 2 weeks ago, there was no communication that particular property had been sold. There was no conversation about that. So I didn't know what it had sold for. I don't know what its value is. I don't know what that means for the value of my own property. But you know what a great agent would do? Is that regardless of just trying to prospect, they would literally be a person first and a real estate agent second. They'd get on the phone, they'd let me know about that listing to give me the advantage. They'd let me know about that sale to give me the advantage. And the lesson is that now more than ever before, it's up to us to actually create our own advantages. We know that no one has ever got to the top of Mount Everest and said, wow, how did I get here? You've got to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, if you just don't start thinking about where you're going, there is no way that you're going to go and generate the level of momentum that you're capable of generating. And we know that now more than ever before, the first key thing that you've got to do in life is you've got to have a high level of commitment around what it is that you want. What are you going to commit to between now and the start of next year over the course of the next 90 days? By the time we get into effectively Valentine's Day next year, what is your plan on what success is going to look like? If you said to me, Josh, I want to go out there and I want to list 20 properties, that's a commitment. But you're going to need some courage. There are going to be some areas that you have fear. How will I do that? How will I get vendor commitment? How will I get them to sign an agency agreement? What are the things I've got to say to get them to sign before Christmas? We know that we've only got 2 weeks maybe to photograph properties before Christmas trees go up. This is incredibly important to build that level of momentum and consistency. And really, that courage is all about learning the capabilities. How do I have better quality conversations? What are the questions that I can ask? How can I get people committed to coming to market today? And if I do that, well, that will then allow me to really be able to go and build that brand new level of confidence. So the commitment leads to the courage leads to the capabilities, and the capability ultimately leads to the confidence that we build as great agents. And I just think about that. I've never ever thought about it before until I started having a look at that. And I thought, you know what? The commitment to put on these types of sessions that we're doing today, we have to have courage. Would people turn up? What are the things that we'd have conversations about? How would we make the technology work? And then think about how can we build some new capabilities so that it was a seamless experience. And now we've got confidence because we've done it over and over and over and over again. What I want you to consider is that there are some great skill sets that agents are bringing to the table. If you haven't already, you should have a great little T intersection. And on the left-hand side, you should have 2020 written down. And on the right-hand side, you should have 2021 written down. Then what I want you to do is that as you go about your work over the course of the next 7, 14, 21 days, I want you to be thinking, who are the people that are clearly wanting to do something this year, and who are the people that are okay about doing something next year? Like, obviously test the assumption. When they say next year, is it about when you sell or when you settle? If you had a buyer who wanted to buy today with a long settlement, what would they want you to do then? If they had a buyer that wanted to buy today but wanted to have a long lease back in play, what would they get you to do then? And this is all about learning how to get really clear about who really wants to do a transaction and who doesn't. As a part of that, ultimately what you want to think about is the clear line on timelines. We've got the 15th of November in just a couple of days. We know that then leading up until December 15, that there are 2 very clear sprints. We're into that last week of getting all of our listings listed for auction campaigns for 2020. And then from November 15, right the way through until December 15, we're going to shift gears to be getting lots of properties ready to get listed for next year, with the opportunity to be able to sell them in either forthcoming auction, for sale, or off-market campaigns in December, right before we go to launch them into January. And this is going to be really important to get that mindset right of some great sprints. 1 great week here to sprint for 2020, 4 great weeks ahead to sprint for the start of 2021. January is what you make it. We also know that it's critically important that you develop a narrative, a story, a conversation about how you do what you do and why it fundamentally works. And what I say to people is it's very clear. We've got what we go to call our list, and then what we've got our launch. And if you have a quick look at those conversations, we've got to get the legals done on properties. We've got to get photos taken. We've got to get styling done. We've got to get pest and building inspection reports completed on properties to reduce the resistance so that buyers can commit. One of the best questions that we identified this year is, what's the risk factor that we need to remove to allow someone to participate? And this is one of the key things, that we know that if we've got people from interstate who may not be able to travel to our local market at the moment, then literally having beautiful photos, having great styling, getting the pest and build reports done actually reduces the amount of challenge and friction that buyer has in being able to bring the deal together. We know that during that list to launch period, what we want to try and do is we want to bring 1, 2, or 3 buyers through that particular property. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what we then do is that we create competitive tension. We get a buyer there at 4 o'clock, another one there at 4:15, another buyer there at 4:30. As a part of that, we put the tape measure out on the kitchen bench. And the benefit of having that tape measure is that one of those buyers walks through and says, why is there a tape measure there? Oh, the other buyer who's coming a little later today has asked us just to bring one because they wanted to measure to see whether or not their furniture would be able to fit into the lounge area. And this is just another way that we get those buyers to feel that perceived level of competition of what is ahead. What we do with buyers is we know that we've got some buyer interest back here. What happens if we get buyer interest that's way out in front of where our expectations are? If that's the case, we just go and sell the property. But what actually happens though, if we're in a position that those 3 buyers are actually clumped together, then we're going to move into a position that all of a sudden, we're going to go and launch the property to market. We put it on all of the major real estate portals. And what that does is it forces one of the buyers who turns up at that open for inspection to feel that perceived level of competition, to either move forward before or on the day of auction and to pay much, much higher sale price than anyone else was prepared to pay. And this is such an important conversation because the industry has got itself up in arms for all the wrong reasons. If I have a quick look at it, I could interchange the term off market with forthcoming auction. And think about it, my dad's been doing forthcoming auction since the 1970s. We needed a contract, we get photos, we get it styled. We might get some buyers through prior. We might even have some pre-market offers. It might even go onto the website as off market. We might even go into the website as forthcoming auction. We even have an email saying that it's a forthcoming auction. It might go into our magazine and it might even have signage out the front of the property. They were doing that in 1970. So whether or not you like the term off market or whether or not you like the term forthcoming auction, in my world, it's exactly the same thing. We then move to putting the property on market, which is where it goes to the major real estate portals. That's then where it might be amplified in our social marketing and advertising campaigns. Then we have a firm auction date, and then we then move to doing open houses. This is such an important conversation because what we're doing today is we're facilitating consumers through their transitioning stages. We know that at the end of the day, a business has to have a set of advantages. And I want you to think about this. Imagine that Josh Fegan came to your area and I opened up a competing real estate office directly opposite you. And I hung out my shingle and it was blowing in the wind And all of a sudden, I'm doing open houses, you're doing open houses, you turn up at opens, I turn up at opens, and we get to see each other. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that now you and I are competing in exactly the same way. We're going to opens, we're trying to work with buyers and work out who's who in the zoo. But yet, the reality of it is that as an agent, you should absolutely be able to blitz me in the marketplace. And the reason is you've got a set of advantages that are significant over what I would have if I was setting up in a brand new area. Your advantages should be, for example, all of the past clients that you've got. This is an incredibly rich tapestry of people that you already know where they live. You've already done a transaction with them, and they have the ability to be able to refer you. And in addition to that, you've got a ton of past market appraisals that you've done. All of these people that had hopes and dreams and aspirations, when the reality of what a market appraisal appointment is, that's where we actually go out to a particular client. We find out what their problem is and we help them to go and solve it. Those past clients and past market appraisals are massively important on the inside of your career. Commit today that between now and the end of the year to get on the phone and to ring every single past client of yours, to get on the phone and ring every single past market appraisal, to find out where people are at and what their plans are next around their hopes, their dreams, and their aspirations. As a part of that, we've then got to go and move to things like our private buyer appointments. This is now the time to make sure that we go and ring every buyer that's been through every single one of our properties. We know there are so many Melbourne agents right now that are doing a ton of private buyer appointments. But how many of those buyers that you've met over the course of the last 30 days are in a position they already own locally? And this is what great agents do. They learn how to ask incredible questions that allow them to cut to the chase more than ever before. Simple things like, have you bought locally before? What are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? That then combined with simple questions that allow us to open people up around their real problem. What's the problem that you're looking to solve and how urgent is that problem for you? That then leads me to think that your advantage should be your listing presentation. You know, it is the ultimate story of what you do for the client. You should feel energized, you should feel motivated, you should feel driven in the way that you pitch. It's time to really freshen up that skill and that capability and take it to a brand new level. And this is ultimately you about really creating your energy. You know, I can't as a coach be tired, exhausted, done with it, burnout. I can't be in a position of, I want to wait till the end of the year or I'm nearly done. No, you got to be in a position that you are pumped and raring to go. And this is learning how to make sure that you can manage your energy so you are consistent in your delivery of what you do on that day-by-day basis. As a part of that, what we realize is that it's only an advantage if you use it. You can have the biggest rent roll in Australian residential real estate in New Zealand, in the UK, or in the UAE, but if you don't ring your landlords to give them an idea on what their principal place of residence is, then you're actually in a position that you're not using your advantage. If you don't pick up the phone and ring your past clients, you're not using that as an advantage. If you're not in a position that you're prepared to get on the phone and to ring every market appraisal that you've ever done, then you're simply just not using that as an advantage. And that's where I love this saying, it's only an advantage if you use it. One of the things that we do in our business all the time is to remind ourselves about the things that we can do rather than the things that we can't do. In a year where everything changed, where we went from 208 events a year to 471 Zooms so far and counting, in a year where all of a sudden we went from 168 flights to 8, in a year where all of a sudden I lived in my home for more than 3 nights in a row, what I learned is that I needed to understand what my strengths were. One of the best things that you can do as an agent is to write down a heading for me, my strengths. If you don't want to write down my strengths, write down my capabilities. And underneath that, write down every single one of your capabilities. What are the things? What are the strengths that you've got? What are the capabilities that you've got? And when you read over those, just tell me how many of them have actually been hampered by the pandemic and how many of them could you amplify right now? This is a really important conversation because it's about getting you to play at a much, much higher level. We know that at the end of the day, we've got to start thinking differently. The industry is ready and ripe for transformation, but it's not about low cutting fees or competing with competitors. This is about making sure that we move to being 100% customer obsessed. The agency of the future, the agency of now is obsessed about the customers that it works with. What's the advantage of me being one of your past clients? I dare you to add you to your database and see what you get from you. Because as a past client, they should get early advice on properties that have just been listed and properties that have also been sold. Why do I want early advice? I might want to buy that property. I might be interested in potentially selling mine. It might be something that might allow you to even maximize that sale price, because if I sell mine, that might be a 2-lot subdivision. This is the whole conversation. Make sure you pick up the phone and let me know when a property has been sold. The reason why that's so important is that gives me an idea that there's a change in values. It allows you to potentially bring overflow buyers through my particular property. This is now the time to make sure that you give me access to those forthcoming auctions or off-market properties. It's about simple things like annual checkup on my asset value. Property prices are continuing to change. We're seeing a surge according to the media this morning, which is identifying that now asset values have shifted, and this is the time to be able to get on the phone, go and see our clients and give them an idea on what that property is worth. Really simple things like an annual report on market movements. Companies like Identity Marketing in Adelaide have been producing some amazing market reports for our clients. And this is a really important conversation because it shifts what we do. Matt Haston at Cobden & Haston has been a massive leader on weekly video updates around market conditions. And in addition to that, be the sort of agent that people can have trusted advisor conversations. If you're not prepared to wear your name badge and walk down the street, then people won't know that you're an agent. If you're dropping your kids off at school and you don't think to use that as a prospecting opportunity by waving and being nice to people, then you miss the opportunity. And this is now where we've got to play at a much, much higher level. The best thing that we can do as we come to the close of this year is to start to make better data-driven decisions. I want you to review every single listing that you've won in the course of the last 12 months. I want you to tell me, how did you actually get to go and meet that particular vendor? The reason I want you to know that is I want you to know what's really working for you in prospecting. Is it your past clients? Is it your buyer work? Is it your letterbox drops? And the reason why this is so important is that I hear so many agents that are out there that are saying, Josh, how do I go and do this? On our Quick Question Tuesdays on Instagram all year, I continue to receive this question from people: what's the best dialogue for cold calling? And I just want to ask a simple question: who's training that? The reality of it is we're not training that. We're training you to call the people that you already know. We're training you to leverage your advantages. We're training you to absolutely play from your strengths. As a part of that, you need to focus on what you can control. What you can control is your energy. What you can control is your momentum. What you can control is the actions that you undertake as an individual to drive that level of momentum and consistency. And it's up to us to bring the urgency to the table. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, what we're seeing right now is a surge. But what's going to happen? All of a sudden, we could see that in the course of the next little bit, that all of a sudden they're going to open the borders. And if they open the borders across the states and then even internationally, so that people can travel to New Zealand and Singapore and Japan, that all of a sudden we may well be in a position that all of the discretionary cash that's been pushed into residential real estate may turn off overnight and people all of a sudden start booking holidays. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if there was a time to come to market, I'm telling you that the course of the next 30 to 40 days before we go to Christmas is absolutely the time to do it. The next best time is early January, because by the time the media get back in February, by the time there's the wash of what's really happened in the economy, by the time we actually see the impact of what's actually going on, then that will be where we will see some pretty significant challenges. We need to make sure that we work clear and to realize that this is the shortest, sharpest, and most aggressive set of market conditions that we've ever seen. You only need to remember that as of May last year, when the general election was held here in Australia, we were at the bottom of the market cycle. All of a sudden, we've sped all the way up to the top, and now we're at the bottom, if not already in the start of recovery right now here in the Australian and the New Zealand markets. What we're seeing in New Zealand, they are selling 35% more properties than they're currently listing. And over in the UK, we talked to brilliant agents like Matt Nicol, who's joining us tonight or this morning in their time. They're all about understanding how they work with the consumer, particularly around their 11 different problem types. This is now about you learning how to pitch in a brand new way. This is a new era that requires new goals. This is a new era that requires you to be seriously fresh around what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. At the end of the day, what's the job that we get done for the customer? And the job that we get done is based on 4 very simple principles. The first key thing is that we get people sold. Then we maximize their sale price. Then we're there to make sure that we make it easy. And the final part is to make sure that we go to reduce the risk. So let's have a quick look at those 4 key things. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I know that tonight's a really important discussion. And I know that you're in that decision frame of trying to decide which agent you go through. And you're going to be subject to claims and counterclaims, a lot of blue suits and a lot of white shirts. But what I know is that in working with my customers, there are 4 reasons why they make the decision to use me. Number 1, they want to be in a position that they get to sold, because there would be nothing worse than coming to the market and not selling. Number 2, they want to be in a position that they maximize their sale price, because I know that every single dollar that you get here on your principal place of residence is worth another $2 that you would have to earn pre-tax in your job. So every single dollar that I get you here is massively important. Next one is after that is that then we want to make sure that we make it easy. My goal is to make you feel like you're not even on the market and that you're in a position that it's literally life as per normal as we go to sell the property for you. And the final component, the reason why people choose me is they want someone who can absolutely reduce the risk. Reduce the risk of the property not selling, of knowing what to do in multiple offer situations, in knowing what to do when there's only one buyer, or what actually happens if a buyer makes an offer very early on in the sales campaign, which may change the entire way that we quote or how we talk to buyers about price leading up to the day of auction itself. At the end of the day, would you allow me to go and do those things? Your business today is all about understanding where your conversion campaigns are. How many buyers have you met in the course of the last 30 days? How many live locally? How many of those could you shift into market appraisals and listing appointments? How many past clients have you got? How many of those past clients have had an annual checkup this year? And how many of you have been able to move into a market appraisal or a listing appointment opportunity? And how many landlords have you guys got? And how many of those landlords actually live locally where you could move those into a market appraisal and a listing appointment? You see, the secret is the customer is the marketer. The customer's not interested in your politics inside of your organization. The customer is interested about how you're going to go and serve them for the future. And this is the conversation. The only way to make your present better is to be by making your future bigger. And what we need to be doing more than ever before is thinking about the conversations of how we can shift your level of momentum around what you got to do as an agent. This year, 2020, good, bad, who knows? But what we do know, most importantly, that most of our clients are reporting 20 to 30% increases on their total sales volume and their total income production from January right the way through until now. And this is all about that mindset, that attitude to make sure that we play with a series of gratitude and we ultimately do our very best. One of my favorite quotes at the moment is this one: are you keeping your goals so small to make them easier to accomplish them on your own? And I think about this all the time. At the end of the day, it's really easy to go through this year and to not have any goals. It's easy to say, I don't really set goals. It's easy to say, what's the point in setting goals because there's a pandemic that's on. But you know what's more powerful? What's more powerful is you realizing that this is a new era. This is a whole new wave of things that are coming at us. We have a world that's filled with distractions. We've got a world that's filled with crisis and a media that continues to hype up events. Think about what has actually happened this year. We've had bushfires, we've had floods, we've had COVID, we've had the US election, we've then had what's been going on in the Queensland election. Now we've got a whole range of issues about will we or won't we fall off the cliff once all the government stimulus has stopped. But what I know is that life goes on, and this too shall pass. And it's about us making sure that we've got some goals that inspire us to turn up and to show up every day, to absolutely perform at our best and to do our best work. If Michael Jordan couldn't get to, let alone win a championship by himself, why would you even consider trying to pursue your goals on your own? And this is the chance now for us to play at a completely different level. This is the chance now for us to make sure that we're actually building a brand new level of momentum. If you said to me, Josh, what can I do in the course of the next 30 days to really make them count? I'd say establish a winning routine. Wake up just that little bit earlier. Go and do that exercise first thing. Listen to some great music. Surround yourself with highly productive people. If relationships aren't on track, have the conversation and get those relationships back on track. You know straight away when you see that name and number, do you want to answer that call? If you don't want to answer that call, that tells me that the relationship is off track. It's time to get back on the radar of your goals. It's time to build out that level of momentum and commitment around the things that are fundamentally important. And if you're going to be doing that, you've got to commit to getting your 45-minute call sessions up. This is the time to make sure that you're getting your market appraisals up, your buyer appointments up, and your listing appointments up. And I promise you, from every single individual agent that I coach, when I get them to stay focused about driving their appointment numbers to get to a minimum of 3 appointments per day, their entire business absolutely takes off. We've seen agents that produce $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in fees in a month, and it's happening right the way across the country. And the way that it's happening is that they're concentrating on doing what great agents do. Block out the noise, get rid of the negativity, reduce your exposure, have awareness, but reduce your exposure to the continual media cycle that's only ever getting more hyped up and putting you into a constant state of alert. Learn how to have a list of the things that energize you. And most importantly, make the decision to play this game at your absolute best. The things that I want you to concentrate on. Get focused now for listing for 2021. How do you have that story? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, what we've got in our emails is a section called Launching in 2021. What we've got on our website is a web page that literally you can navigate to called Launching in 2021. And what it does, it has a list of all the properties that we've got coming next year. This is what we're going to see happen. Throughout the course of the balance of November and into December, we're going to find a number of buyers that are entering the market that can't find anything to buy. We're going to find a number of sellers that sell in November and December that all of a sudden put their head up and can't find anything to buy either. What we're then going to do at this point is we're going to let them know that your property is available on our Launching in 2021 platform. That allows those buyers to register some interest on the property, and if appropriate, we can get them through as we come into December. If we're able to get one of those buyers to pay a great sale price, then we can sell the property before Christmas. If not, then we then launch it with a fresh campaign come January 9, where we launch it to all the major real estate websites and we gain a ton of traction and momentum. We then get the auction in before January 30, before the media even wakes up to what's happening inside of the market. This is the chance, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, for us to do that. Would you allow me the opportunity to at least mention your property to a few of the buyers that we know are missing out at auctions, to a few of the sellers that we know that have sold that are in a position that they absolutely need to buy? This is the sort of stuff that great agents will do. And what we know is that Christmas dinner will taste a lot better if you've already got your minimum number of listings that you actually need for this year. Now's the time to go and make that happen and to literally lead the recovery. In a really powerful way, you've got to start thinking about how you play this game at a much, much better level. When you look at what actually happened over the course of the last 12 months, how quickly did you adapt? Were you agile in your approach? Did you shift what you were doing as an agent and you go to build momentum? If you didn't, it's not too late. Now's the day. Today's the day where you make new decisions on what you can get out there to go and achieve. As a part of that, we're launching tomorrow the updated version of our Josh Fegan Digital. On it, you will find our brand new Blueprint 10 that's going to be coming out. That'll be launched on the 14th of this month. In addition to that, incredible new black and white interviews, short courses, including Rebuild, which is about how to get your career back on track, some amazing Q&A shows with Matthew Hayson, special edition audios on what to do as the market continues to change, the incredible iOS and Android app that allows you to play the videos as you drive in your car, in and around us, listening to the audio, so you can actually use this training wherever you are, incredible resources, and our brand new Blueprint printed manual and workflow poster. They're all available on some Josh Fegan Digital, and it is live from tomorrow. In addition to that, what we wanted to do is to say thank you so much for your energy, for your momentum, and your support. We're here to help. We're working right the way through, and we're going to make sure that you hit a high level of success, no matter the agent that you are. Today's the chance to absolutely play at your best. And we just wanted to say thank you so much for attending our fast format 45-minute training session this morning to keep you on track to achieving your goals. At the end of the day, no one came here to play it small. This is your chance to absolutely play to your best. And with that, we finish on exactly 9:45. Thank you, team. We look forward to seeing you soon.